All right, let's talk about Netflix's Marvel's Daredevil Season 2. I was really excited for this one. Daredevil and Punisher being some of my favorite comic book characters ever. Before I talk about it, though, no spoilers until the end. So for now, hang on, I'm not going to talk spoilers. But I am going to say that I really, really like this. This was so freaking good. Guys, oh my god. I haven't seen like some of my favorite comic book characters treated this well since The Winter Soldier, which was one of my favorite things ever because it took one of my favorite characters and just made such a great movie and just really embodied that character while doing its own thing. I think that's the best thing a comic thing can do right now is not try and tell exactly from the comics, but really kind of take like what makes that character and give them their own new story that makes sense with some homage and some references to the comics, you know, stuff that I like. And I think Daredevil Season 2 did that amazingly. It took a bunch of different arcs and it took a bunch of different things and influences, and it just made an awesome story. Now, is it better than Season 1? I've seen a lot of people say different things. Personally, I think it is. Maybe my bias is showing because I love the Punisher so much, but that is the case here because it's really good. He's handled pretty damn well, and Daredevil is better than ever, and I'm just happy. I guess I'm just going to be totally scatterbrained with this one. Season 2, what it does, it has a tendency to do what the first season did was meander a little bit, but with last season it meandered on something that was still kind of cool, like the Kingpin and stuff. Here it was about stuff I didn't care about as much. I really didn't get hooked on the Elektra storyline until further towards the end of the season, and even the trial of Frank Castle and that type of stuff started to drag on a little bit, but mostly this is an awesome series because it just gives you so much of what you want. It feels very familiar to the first season in a lot of ways. A lot of familiar faces show up, but there's a lot more action and a lot more fighting this time around, and the action is so good here. Sometimes it gets a little much, and sometimes it feels like it teeters on becoming like a CW show quality, but then on the flip side, not at all, because it's incredibly violent and I think much better choreographed, especially like with how the camera just shows the action. It just shows the characters doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's not like shaky cam hiding everything. It's just a man doing flips and punching people in the face, and you can see it perfectly, and it's like pornographic. It is so much fun to watch, and it is so good. Now the characters here I think are mostly better than ever. Foggy Nelson, who I was kind of shaky on in the first season, I was like, is he annoying? Is he a bad actor? Does he just have bad lines? What is it? This time around he gets a little bit more time to shine. I like what they did with him. Karen Page, I think, is great as ever. I think she's a little less damsel in distress here and a little more interesting. I really don't like Stick. Anytime Stick shows up, I just hate him. I feel like he's like a bootleg David Carradine. They would have gotten David Carradine if he didn't kill himself. And the woman that plays Elektra is fantastic. I was blown away by how much I ended up liking Elektra. I went in going, I'm probably not going to care about the Elektra part of the storyline, but turns out I totally did. And of course, Charlie Cox is incredible. He is perfect. It took me a little while to be convinced, but he's great, especially during, I'm not spoiling anything yet, but some scenes with him and the Punisher just like arguing their ideologies. It's incredible. It's damn good television. It's probably some of the best. Now, speaking of the Punisher, I think he's great. I love him. I think he's different. Jon Bernthal is great. He's a great actor. He could totally act. He could totally show what this character has behind him. He also just feels very much like Jon Bernthal, but that's fine. He feels like a Shane from The Walking Dead or every other character he's played. But he does it here. Here it fits in really well because Frank Castle is pretty complex, and they do it justice. Well, he does feel a little different, and he does have moments of levity and like some moments where you can kind of feel for him. The way they go about it here, they make him like a fucking monster. He's terrifying, and he's so cool. And in the beginning, he's almost like a slasher horror character. Like, he's a fucking serial killer. And they do it so well, and I love it. And to see him and Daredevil duke it out, and whether it's through fists or ideology, it is fantastic. It's everything I hoped for, and they give you a ton of it. They don't spare at all. What I liked about this season and what I took away the most, the first season was dealing with a lot of like religion and doing the right thing. Season 2 focuses on a lot of new things, but the thing I took away from it the most and what I really liked, what it grappled with, was the whole like dealing with being a superhero and keeping it from your friends and loved ones and like what that can do. This is tackled in a lot of superhero movies, but I think with Daredevil having the time to really explore it and really make it kind of agonizing to the point where sometimes I'm like, Matt, just tell her. It really it worked very well. So I really like season 2 a lot. In some ways, I had a lot more fun with this season than I did with the last season. I think maybe last season was just, as a whole, a bit more cleaner and told a more cohesive tale. Season 2 kind of meanders in different places, but ultimately it's more fun and more exciting. You know what I mean? But now with spoilers, let's talk about the Punisher, okay? The Punisher and what he does is great, especially in jail. When he goes to jail, it's incredible. It's like so gory and so over the top and so ridiculous. It's crazy, and he's so good. And this was an interpretation of the Punisher that I didn't think I would see or ever get, but it's really cool. But they still give you an idea of where he's coming from, and he teeters the line between sometimes being insane and fucking crazy and scary, and then other times, you know, being a person, talking about his family, giving Karen Page dating advice, which I thought was a little awkward, them sitting in a diner. But it ended up being pretty good because it kind of gave him a little more character, but then he also continued to murder like 4 people in a diner, and it was great. I think this season, even more than last season a little bit, feels even more self-contained in terms of this little Netflix universe. There's not too many new references towards the bigger Marvel universe, and that was okay. I found that a little disappointing, but it's fine here because it all just works so well. This is the world that I care about immediately. I really wish in the skyline that they show so much. This was for the first season too. I really wish that they showed Stark Tower in the skyline. Why the fuck can't they at least do that? It must be a legal thing, but regardless, it's really annoying. One of the most exciting parts of the season for me was when Kingpin showed up again because he was great. He had this commanding presence in jail. They showed how he was doing things in jail, and when he was talking to the Punisher, that was a great scene. Not only that, but when Charlie Cox, when Matt Murdock and him face off in that room and shit goes down, when Kingpin smashes his head against a table, that was amazing. This season is just so brutal, man. It was so good. All the fighting, all the bones breaking, all the headshots, all the blood. It was really, really satisfying and fun to watch. There's a lot of Matt Murdock fighting ninjas here, which is a little more than I wanted, but in this season, they kept it really interesting and they kept it fresh. Instead of last season where it was just like, okay, now ninjas. This time around, it was very integral to the plot in a lot of ways. I thought it was cool. What I really freaked out and got so excited over was when he got his traditional billy club with like the rope line in it and the zip. I was like, I was screaming at the TV, and when he swings on it for the first time, it was incredible. It was realistic though, and it was so great. Not only that, but when the Punisher gets his final moment, when he kind of earns his costume, which I seems like every character kind of had to do. He defeats the guy who, you know, I assume was kind of like a reference to Bushwhacker from the comics. If you don't know who that is, don't worry. He's like a D-list character. But when he gets those guns and when he gets that really cool ass body armor that kind of looks like a skull already, that was so cool. And then when he shows up in the end and like you just hear a gunshot and the guy falls and then it cuts and he's like, "Flink," like I was like, oh, that's perfect. Standing on the rooftop with the trench coat, he gets the hero shot. It's amazing. I'm happy. He burns his house down. It's really cool. There's that whole beautiful thing in the end where it cuts back and forth between Matt walking down the street in the city in the snow, and it's beautiful, and then the Punisher burning his fucking house down and walking out with like a big ass Gatling gun. That was really cool. But I forgot, the Punisher takes the CD and it says micro. That was another part I screamed at the TV. I never thought I would be that excited to see a mention of like a sidekick weapons dealer character, but it was really perfect. And that's just like the bigger Punisher storyline coming to be a thing. I really like that. I also, one last thing about the Punisher, I know I'm saying a lot about the Punisher, but he kind of made like getting your face fucked up look cool. Like, he just had a beat up face the whole season and he looked badass and really scary. He almost kind of looked like a gaunt skull himself because he just always had so much bruising and fucked upness on his face, and it was great. But again, I can't emphasize more than anything Matt Murdock and the Punisher on the roof arguing with each other, their ideologies. That was incredible. The amount of like fights that they gave him in this first 3-4 episodes was so great. Not only that, but of course they topped the hallway scene from last season with a stairwell fight that was so good. I know I just keep saying everything is so good, but I don't know. I could go on and on about this show. I'm so excited, but what I do want to know is what you guys think about it down in the comments. Let's talk about it. What was your favorite moment from this season? And do you like this better than the first season, or do you disagree with me? I want to know what you guys think because I could talk about Daredevil and Punisher forever because they're my favorite. Guys, you know the deal. I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. You can like me on Facebook, you can follow me on Twitter, and you can subscribe because video games.